Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for September 23rd, 2022. I am Benji Fisher moderating, and also at the meeting are Baloo Ertel, I think, who's sharing his screen and will start us off. Also Aaron McHale, Daniel Batista, Offer Schall, Ralph Kohler, Simo Helston, and Thomas Howell. So as usual, we have a mix of front and back end developers, site builders. I'm not sure what everyone's role is, but it's good to have that diversity of backgrounds for a usability meeting. Although as far as I know, none of us are actually certified usability experts. But go ahead, Baloo, please start by reading the issue number.
Okay. First of all, until my page loads, I just quickly introduce myself in a sentence. I'm a Balú Ertl, backend developer from Hungary, Budapest. Personally, at the moment, from DrupalCon Prague, it has the story that Christina yesterday won the Women in Drupal award, sorry. So that just popped in my mind. I remember this issue is still ongoing. So once I saw her on the stage, then I just approached her and asked if I can move this 4-year-old ticket a bit further. I pass over the link in the chat for your convenience. Just a sec. And I will share my screen. Actually, you can see on my screen then what is actually about. I disable my darkening, so you will feel more familiar with the look and feel. Okay. Yeah, I'm not the reporter of the issue. I just joined in the middle at some certain point. I'm not sure who using Drupal which long years ago, but as far as I remember, this is a kind of workaround solution we inherited from the era of Drupal 6, maybe.
Hey, before you go any further, can you read the issue number and the title for the sake of the recording?
Yeah, sure. Okay. The issue number is 2384-203, and the title is about improved indentation in hierarchical select lists.
Thanks.
Okay. When we have regular select HTML elements, input elements, it has these option elements inside, and some architectural reasons Drupal is able to handle in certain situations some hierarchy between these option elements. Here in the ticket, there are listed 3 situations where actually it can be tested and tried out. But it can happen in any other ways. If a contrib module, for example, implements a feature that also has a similar data structure, then they are affected as well. At the moment, Drupal core, because the ticket is about Drupal core, has the solution that adds a dash sign or hyphen multiplied as many times as the level of hierarchy for the current item in the list is down or up. So you can imagine that, yeah, maybe we are just familiar with it and we accustomed it during the years, but we can agree that it's not that nice, not that optional, not that obvious, sorry. So I had the idea that you can see in the screenshots, the patch can be tested, that we can use Unicode characters, special kind, to somehow make a wider space to, and yeah, I just, if you follow my screen, I just make it larger. So my only concern is that the hyphen character is very narrow. Even if you multiply it with several times, it still conveys the message of the hierarchy depth a very poor way. It's hard for the eye to seek, to scan. It does not makes easy to understand that, okay, this one is a bit, because the problem is that it's only a bit indented and not a lot. So that was my initial idea, that if we can widen the space, then it would make easier for the eye to recognize the structure of the hierarchical structure. So later, meanwhile, there was a interstitial situation when I was using a space. Just give me a second. Yeah, here it is. So that was my initial idea, that when only the space character was replaced or added. But I'm really curious about your opinion. And after this introduction, I will mute my mic, I promise. But for me, I felt it a bit odd, because this white area of the left part of the select list, if you are talking about a left to right writing system, but you can imagine the opposite on the right to left writing system as well. So this white area is very hard to understand for the vision. Imagine if the tick mark is somewhere in the between, then it can, in extreme situation, it can happen that you just misunderstood that where is the tick mark, because you have no control on the tick mark where the browser renders the tick mark. So it would be confusing. So in the next step, next iteration of, yeah, please.
Slow down for a minute. So are there any questions from anyone else on the meeting about what the issue is about? If you want, I've just posted a link in the Zoom chat for a Drupal 10 site that I've set up with the Umami demo. You can log in as admin. And if you want, you can edit any article node, such as the second link I gave, and set the menu.
I'm not sure what was the question. The first question was if any participants has a question, right?
Right, and I'm just offering the other people on the
Yeah,
meeting, if they want to poke around with it themselves, you can
I went
provide a
too
menu
far
link for
for.
an article, and you'll see it in action in the current state. So I guess if there are no questions, you can go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I can recall the simpletest instance in a sec. I just quickly finish the introduction of the situation. Okay, so that was the second iteration when I decided to add this extra dot character beside the white space, because it solves the problem of guiding the eye, the vision of which level am I, which level the tick mark belongs to. And as it's only a couple of pixels, it makes lighter the entire visual appearance of the dropdown. So it does not take as much noise. It doesn't confuses the vision with that much noise as the concurrent line of dashes would cause. That's my personal feeling only, but I'm really curious about what you believe. So, okay, maybe I went too far in the details. Sorry once again, but now I hand back the microphone to the host, and please, Benji, continue to moderate. And meanwhile, I just spin up the simpletest instance.
Okay, so So the link I've given is a plain Drupal 10 site. So you can use that to see what the current behavior is. So I guess the current state is that it uses just one hyphen for every level of indentation. Is that right? Or maybe it uses two hyphens for every level?
No, you are correct. 1 dash per level.
Okay.
With that site, it looks like it has 2 dashes per level.
Yeah, I wonder if this might depend on which admin theme you're using. I'm looking at, I guess, Claro. And it seems to be using 2 dashes.
You are correct. I was wrong. Sorry. Yes,
Okay.
it's 2 dashes.
So then, so what is your preferred suggestion? Is it to use a dash into space or a dot into space rather than 2 dashes?
Is the question to me?
Yes.
Yeah. My suggestion is that we can replace this pair of dashes into some Unicode characters. They are not ASCII characters. They are okay. Not going into too much details. They're still standard Unicode characters, but not within the ASCII plate of the character encoding. Personally, I don't think it should be a technical challenge, because nowadays modern browsers are capable to display the entire Unicode character set. So yeah, that's my suggestion.
And then to use some sort of Unicode dot and a space in place of the current 2 hyphens.
Yes, yes.
Comments. I see a few people. Aaron, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess my thinking is less on the usability side, more from the accessibility side. So I'm particularly wondering what the potential impact on screen reader users would be. I've never tried using a screen reader with a sort of indented select like this, so I don't know how they tend to normally behave, but I would be really interested to get some view from others in the, people in the sort of like, in the accessibility channel on Slack, or oh, I see someone saying comment 63. Ralph, yeah, Ralph, is it comment 63 in issue has some, does that have something for that?
There are 2 videos with the output without the patch in 10.1 and
Okay.
after the patch in 9.5. And yeah, it illustrates the main problem.
Are those so have you seen those videos, Ralph? Have you watched them?
I've created them.
Oh, you create, okay, so can you thank you. I guess what would be your assessment then of this? I'll just hand over to you.
The quick summary is basically I've only tested in VoiceOver on macOS 12.6. Before the patch, you have no announcement at all in VoiceOver about the hierarchy. You just get the label of the option. And with the patch, it's the same. Only exception is you get prepended comma announced. You get comma menu point A, comma menu point B. And it's basically audio noise and doesn't provide any guidance for the user. So therefore, I'm not sure if those special Unicode characters would be beneficial to use, because how do screen readers handle them? I'm unsure. And also the question is, how does JAWS or NVDA or others output the options? Those are the questions. And from a sighted user perspective, but with visual issues, I say I agree with Baloo. The dots aren't optimal, but they are easier. But it's still, at least for me, it's problematic to keep the line to get to, for example, level 3. So I'm not sure what's the best choice is.
Okay, so
So I wouldn't call it visual noise. If the screen reader is reading out the indentation, then it is telling you the level of the indent.
No, it does
No?
not. It's audio noise, because it doesn't. It says no matter if I'm on level 1 or on level 4, all the time it's just a comma prepended. There's no distinguishing between the level, so it is basically noise in that case. And
Okay.
it doesn't add any information.
But then is there any difference between the current behavior and the behavior after the patch?
Yeah, the only
Yeah.
difference is that comma is added as
Yeah,
announced.
I see.
Yes, thank you very much that you uploaded the 2 video files to the ticket. So I really encourage for those who are interested to listen them, because actually personally I have no earlier experience with using this voiceover and any other talking aids. So but anyway, thank you. And replying your question, I consider it as a regression, because earlier, as you said, it was silent and it was not optimal, because the depth was not communicated ODLE, but now it is an extra sound is given, which has, of course, has no any meaning, just saying comma and then the menu item name. So yeah, it's a regression, because it just makes difficult to understand what's going on under your cursor.
Okay, Simo, you've been waiting for a while. What do you want to say?
Yeah, it's just about sighted users. So I think with those dashes that are without any space in between, it creates a very strong horizontal line, and it kind of actively breaks the connection between the higher level and lower level, because the eyes are guided only on horizontal level. So I think for sighted users, kind of a dot or small circle, something that's kind of a so dot would be like something that would keep the kind of tie the hierarchy block into one whole much better, because it wouldn't be breaking it into horizontal lines so much. So I think it would be a improvement for sighted users. I'm not sure if dot is the best one, but something that is kind of a doesn't create horizontal lines, so that there is something that kind of that vertical and horizontal are more or less equal.
Okay, Aaron, go ahead.
thanks. Yeah, I just watched the videos. So I would say that, well, my assessment of it is that the impact on screen reader users is more significant than sighted users. So if we're going to make a change here, we want to make a change that is going to have the least impact on screen reader users, because as it said, like if you've got if you're jumping down a menu item with a lot of items, particularly if you're navigating, you're having to navigate one at a time, even just that single word being announced of comma, that really adds up and makes your navigation potentially a lot slower. when particularly if you're a screen reader user who's got a very, they're navigating very quickly, they could potentially parse each menu item within, a split second with a fast voice, but then adding that comma potentially significantly increases the time it takes for them to navigate the list. So I'd say the impact here on screen reader users is probably more significant than sighted users. So I would want to find a solution here that does not negatively impact screen reader users.
Yes, that's a very interesting argument, and thank you for bringing up. I was okay, that's good to compare.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, again, this is the difficulty is each screen reader tends to have its slight differences in behavior. So we've really only experienced it with VoiceOver thanks to Ralph. But again, as Ralph said, we probably want to check with JAWS and others. But we can only do what we have access to.
Ralph, go ahead.
One question, if anybody of you knows, in the context of select elements, and is it possible, because I've tried to add a span, a visually hidden span inside an option element, and that is displayed and not hidden. But is there another option to add something visually hidden there, or is it maybe possible via JavaScript or something like that, so that you could add the context, aka the nesting level for each option somehow as an output, as an announcement in the screen reader maybe?
I think that's against HTML definition.
Yes, I'm sharing my screen. If you can follow, then the MDN lists the permitted content of the option element is only the plain text. So that would be also the idea that if I can add the span and apply the area label hidden on the span, and maybe we could make the screen readers to exclude these characters only for the sighted users. But the problem is that it breaks the HTML markup rules.
Is there an ARIA attribute that will work? Maybe if you go down, if you scroll further down, you see attributes. Is there anything on the page you were just on? Oh, I see that one. Yeah, I'm just wondering because maybe there's an ARIA thing could be used here.
Yes, my idea was that if I could apply this area hidden on the span element within the option, so we can encapsulate these special characters in this span, that could maybe work. But once again, I don't believe so that we can do, because it's not permitted to include any further HTML elements within an option.
I was also thinking if there's like an ARIA attribute for the option itself that we can. I'm not sure, but maybe there's one that would like I think ARIA label or something. Maybe would. Again, I don't know enough about the ARIA attributes, so I can't say for sure. But maybe there's something that then would cause the screen reader to read out what's in the ARIA label rather than in the option text.
And what you're thinking is to add that hierarchy level, like hierarchy level 1, like level 1, and then the option text as the area label, if it's possible.
Yeah, something like that.
Timo had the idea. Simo, sorry, excuse me. You were touching the point of using different characters inside these ones. So I just quickly showing this comments was from Wim Leers back that 8 years before. and he just was coming up with the idea to using these piping characters in the Unicode table. I'm not saying it's a better option. It makes much easier to calculate their proper usage, extremely increase the complexity of rendering these option elements. I'm just showing this that your idea is absolutely it aligns with finding the different characters. So I'm not sticking with the idea of using this dot and space. I'm just was trying with the sounds.
Yeah.
Mean,
Yeah, just saying that this version with these pipes that then creates a very strong horizontal vertical lines. So that's also not ideal. So we would want to have something that kind of has both horizontal and vertical kind of equal balance.
yeah. Meanwhile, I was listening your variable insights. I was trying in my local instance to using regular space and regular dot, so no any special Unicode characters, just the plain ones. And if you can see, I'm not sure if the screen sharing takes or broadcasts this
Yes, we see it.
element that my browser renders. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, the regular white space of the space character, the width of this character is not constant. I mean it's constant, but the letters in this font are actually not constant. So this is why we cannot calculate that. You know, yeah, it does not gives you the same feeling that every horizontal spacing is the same as the vertical spacing, because as you can see, the dots are much closer horizontally to each other rather than vertically. But if I can run my voiceover on this computer, that we can listen that if the comma has disappeared or not. Do you want me to do so?
Sure, give it a try.
Okay, then just a sec. I hope that the Zoom recording will hear the voiceover and not only I hear that one. And okay, and if I come back here,
We don't hear anything, but I do see
yeah,
a pop-up window.
just a sec. I stop it. I stop it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it says the dot. It says a dot instead of comma. So it's neither a solution.
Okay, so I think at this point in the discussion, I think there's general agreement that some form of space and dot is a visual improvement over the 2 dashes that we currently have, or the 2 hyphens. But there's, we could experiment with different characters and possibly find something better, but I think the examples you've shown are at least an improvement over the current what we currently use visually. But there's a strong consensus that we have to make some change so that either we improve it if we can, or at least don't change it for the worse for screen readers. Does that sound about right? And Ralph is putting in a reference in the chat. So you've already asked in the usability, I'm sorry, in the accessibility Slack channel. So we should certainly, get some expert opinions on accessibility. do people agree with my summary so far of the state of consensus? I'm getting a thumbs up from Aaron and from Ralph, and I don't see anyone disagreeing.
I sent a verbal thumbs up because I'm not familiar with the Zoom interface.
Okay, sure.
I think it's probably also just worth noting that obviously if the accessible autocomplete feature that hopefully will one day make it into Drupal core ever does, then that potentially mitigates it for a lot of users, whatever we do here. So, or well, makes the situation better for people with accessibility uses.
Okay, but I guess people, our site builders would still have the option of using an autocomplete or a select widget. And
yeah. I suppose they technically can now. They can use the well, if it's an entity reference, never mind, ignore me.
okay, so does anyone have a strong preference among the various options of an ASCII dot or the Unicode centered dot? And I guess, Baloo, you said that you think it's an advantage to have the vertical spacing and the horizontal spacing be consistent. I'm not sure that that's something useful to have. Do other people have opinions on that question?
I think it is quite important because it's how our brains work. So the distance between items is something that is very strongly affects how we group things. So it's a kind of having those equal distance allows us to like link the last item in the category, last item in the hierarchy to the like the first parent in the hierarchy. So I think it's like from cognition perspective, it's very good to have those equal height and width.
Okay,
It helps.
Aaron?
Thanks. I think the difficulty with that is that unlike a lot of the things we review, we're talking about something which is very environmental specific. By that, I mean, like every browser renders slightly differently. The user can also decide which, usually, browsers let you decide, change fonts, change sizes of these kind of elements. If you're using, any kind of accessibility magnification tools, you might choose to make the font and select list a lot bigger. So there's a lot of things that are just outside of our control. So it's really hard to make a decision about, in this case, about one, saying we want to have the height and the, all the things, all the sizes consistent when it's, we really just can't control that. We can only do the best for the default, I guess you could say. Or give our best guess, which is kind of, most of the stuff we review, we're in control of more because it's something, we're adding to the actual UI, whereas we're completely reliant on how the given browser and computer choose to render out a select list here.
Okay, so I guess the next steps for this issue are sort of a technical front-end developer question of can we avoid making changes to the screen reader experience, and after that we can decide whether which exact character to use. Does that seem fair? I'm getting a thumbs up from Aaron and Balu. Okay. So, okay, I think I'm getting a bunch of thumbs up. People agree with that. So Balu, would you like to post a comment to the issue summarizing the discussion today?
Definitely, that would my offer also to sum up your valuable insights that you shared. Once again, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing that issue up. Okay, we have a little more than 15 minutes left, and well, there was some other issue that we were going to discuss. Which one was that?
I was looking at that those module
Ah, yes.
installation things.
Are you prepared to share your screen?
Yeah, I can.
Go ahead then. And Balu, I'll give you some language in Slack to include with your comment shortly after the meeting.
Yeah. So actually, yeah, I copy pasted some images to PowerPoint to make it somehow like a structured. So I'm not sharing a actual browser. So I took a look of those actually like systematically using this Nielsen's general like heuristics.
Actually, can you go back to the first slide and read out the issue number?
Yeah, so the issue number is 2035079. Figure out what to do with the install/uninstall modules page. There are two related issues. One of them is issue 2949629, split the modules page into installed, available, and uninstall. And then there is also a somewhat related issue which is issue number 3310879. Consider refactor of the install button behavior that is under project process. So the issue is about changing how the listing and installing modules works. So I took a look of the the old heuristics of 10 general principles for interaction design. So it's about showing like the visibility of system status, match between system and the real world, user control and freedom, consistency and standards, error prevention, recognition rather than recall, flexibility and the efficiency of use, aesthetics and minimalist design. Help users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors, and help and documentation. So first I looked at this possibility of splitting the modules page into installed, available, and uninstall. So this didn't have a clear description on what would be like what would be the actual content on that available page. So if that available shows whether a module is installed or uninstalled, it's kind of a creates redundant information, because then it would list the same stuff on several pages, and then it would use like inconsistently, like you know, kind of in a way that it's different from the standards, using those tabs as kind of filtering content. Whereas if we want to filter content based on status of being installed or like not installed, then we should use filters to do that. And also this would be good for for minimalistic design, but minimalistic design shouldn't override the other aspects. So and also finding information from different tabs instead of list that is we are able to filter. It's kind of a reduces efficiency.
So
Then
in
there is
summary, you think that should be a won't fix
yeah
issue. You think that that's a bad
I think
suggestion.
so.
Okay.
Then this other suggestion that would have like this bulk action. I think this is something that it's also not clearly defined whether or not these checkboxes are disabled or not. In this one, it's not clear on the mockup, but basically, this is kind of in general, this is something that would be consistent with what we do with admin/content page, but here for certain use cases, we need to do a lot of scrolling in able to uninstall a single module. So it's kind of inefficient in certain use cases. And there was a question mark, maybe a drop button in the bottom. So I think it shouldn't be a drop button because that would be inconsistent with what we do in content admin page for bulk actions. Then there was a suggestion to alter the confirmation page, and this hits about the error prevention and stuff like that. And this was like a pretty good idea, and there was discussion about it in the previous usability meeting. But this is in a way separate from this listing, so I didn't comment it here.
Can I ask you to pause for a moment? I think Balu has a question.
Yeah,
Balu?
thank you. My only concern with the bulk operation, if you could switch back one slide, please, that from the technical aspect, as the modules has dependency on each other, then some situations it can be very hard to properly display if you are able to uninstall a set of modules at the same time. So at the current situation, how core works is that they disables the checkboxes for each row if it's blocked to be installed or uninstalled. And I'm not sure if your proposal is takes it into consideration.
Yeah, I think we talked about that the last time we discussed this a couple of weeks ago. And one thing I pointed out is that when you install modules, either with Drush or through the UI, and when you uninstall modules using Drush, in all cases, it takes care of the dependencies for you with a confirmation step if appropriate. And the only one where you have to work out the dependencies yourself is uninstalling through the UI. So that's something that can be improved. But I agree, the way it currently works, you have to uninstall things in several steps and manage the dependencies yourself.
Yeah, and the third suggestion for that module listing page was to have buttons for installing and uninstalling, like a one button per module, and to have some kind of indicators, like additional indicators on the button on whether or not it's uninstalled or installed. So it's not really a standard to have some kind of a color symbol on a button. So we shouldn't try to do that. And it's also for removing multiple modules not efficient. That actually I forgot to change that numbers. Yeah, so it would be 5, I think. And then it was a suggestion to have just to add uninstall a single for each item inside, like in the more kind of inside the accordion. And this one also has the issue with efficiency for clicking that, but also with it's really hard to understand what is a disabled checkbox. So that kind of goes to all of these. And it's also not really a standard to have disabled checkboxes in this manner. So it's something that's kind of has been done, but it's not really something that it's not easy to understand. And then there was the idea that project browser could replace that modules extend page that is currently used for installing and uninstalling modules. And it's kind of makes sense that there would be functionality for this in project browser. But then again, another thing is that it shouldn't be the only way to do this. So my idea is that project browser could override the kind of the old way of doing things if project browser is enabled. Because most of the bigger sites maintained by agency teams and not by end users, the project browser would be preferred to not be enabled on such sites because it wouldn't be used anyway, and it would be just kind of creating a bit too much.
Okay, Simo, we've got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
So can you summarize your recommendations?
Yeah. So I think we could kind of combine some of the ideas here. So we could use for like a one page for installed and uninstalled. We could have kind of a more complex filter than we have at the moment. So it could be based on a filter based on install status. It could be filtered based on free text like it is now. It only has this text filtering. We could have like bulk actions where we could select bulk install or bulk uninstall with better terms, of course, but kind of the idea is to have a bulk install, bulk uninstall there, so that it would remove the conflict between checking multiple items and some would be installed, some uninstalled, and kind of creating a mess there. So you could either only install or only uninstall, and just like with content, it would just do nothing if it's already installed. So if the task is already done, it wouldn't change it. And we could have for each line, we could have like we have in content, we could have a drop button that could uninstall or configure a single module, or it could, if it's not uninstalled, then it could be installed. So kind of combining these, it would be, I think, improvement to the current situations. We would have to deal with that we need to make it automatically uninstall after checking that, like it would have this dialogue to ask for confirmation on uninstalling stuff.
Okay, I think Aaron wants to make a comment.
Thanks, and I'll keep it very brief because obviously we're really close to the hour. One thing I'll say is I like the idea of a drop button on next to the modules because you know, right now we have buttons that are hidden under the expandable collapsible description section, which it might not be obvious at first that those exist if you're not familiar with the modules page, but also the drop button to the on the far right is a pattern we use consistently across core. So having the modules page also use that, I think there's an argument to say that's something we should do. I could see that being its own issue, so maybe it's actually worth exploring that in its own issue to see if we want to do it, because that could impact, you know, the as you see there, the configure link, but also the permissions help other links there on the description section.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. If we are going to introduce a drop button, we should consider putting the other links there. Any other comments? Simo, have you posted this suggestion yet to the issue?
No, I haven't. I didn't finish this in time because, yeah,
Okay.
I was moving the clock 1 hour the wrong way, so I thought I have 2 more hours.
Okay. Well, I think that's about all we have time for. Again, Daniel, if you'll give me your Drupal.org username in Slack, or if you'll comment on the usability issue, then I can make sure to give you credit for attending. I think I have everyone else's name. Thank you all for coming, and we will do this again next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Have a nice weekend.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Simo, for that presentation.